The telescope whirred softly as Nathaniel Foster adjusted the calibration for the third time that night. The university observatory sat perched on a hilltop far from the city's light pollution, offering an unhindered view of the cosmos. Stars scattered across the darkness like diamonds on velvet, their eternal dance captured through his lens. "Another night chasing shadows," he muttered, checking the data streaming onto his monitor. For 2 years, he'd been tracking an anomalous signal, small bursts of radiation that defied conventional astronomical patterns. His colleagues had dismissed it as equipment malfunction or cosmic background noise, but Nathaniel knew better. The signal showed intelligence, purpose. The door to the observatory creaked open, bringing a gust of chilly autumn air. "Professor Foster. The janitor said I'd find you here." Nathaniel turned to see Talia Vex, the new research assistant who'd joined the astronomy department just a month ago. Something about her always seemed slightly off, the way she moved with uncanny grace, how her gaze lingered too long on ordinary objects, her flawless recall of complex equations. "Working late again, Talia?" he asked, minimizing the signal data on his screen. "Like you, I find the night more illuminating than the day." She approached his workstation, her dark hair reflecting the blue glow from the monitors. "What are you tracking tonight?" "Just routine observations," he lied, uncomfortable with her proximity. "Cataloging exoplanets in the Kepler field." Her eyes, an unusual shade of amber, narrowed slightly. "Curious. Your telescope is oriented toward the Cygnus constellation, not Kepler's field." Nathaniel stiffened. Few would have caught that discrepancy, especially not someone who'd only been in the department for a month. "I was just finishing up there," he stammered, reaching for his coffee mug to hide his unease. As he extended his arm, he knocked over a stack of papers beside the computer. Both he and Talia reached to catch them, their hands brushing. A jolt of electricity, literal, not metaphorical, surged between them. Nathaniel jerked back with a gasp, staring at his tingling fingers. Talia's expression transformed from surprise to something like dread. "Static electricity," she offered weakly, stepping back. "The atmosphere is particularly dry tonight." But Nathaniel had felt static shocks before, and this was different, warm, pulsing, almost alive. The observatory lights flickered suddenly, electronics around them sputtering. The main computer rebooted itself while the telescope motors whined in protest. Then, with a final surge, the room plunged into darkness. Power outage? Nathaniel fumbled for his phone to activate its flashlight. Before he could find it, a soft glow illuminated the room, emanating from Talia herself. Her skin shimmered with an iridescent blue light, revealing intricate patterns beneath the surface. Where her human features had been moments ago, there now stood a being both familiar and alien, taller, with skin the color of twilight and eyes that glowed like distant stars. Nathaniel stumbled backward, knocking over his chair. What are you?" Talia raised her hands in a placating gesture. "Please remain calm, Nathaniel Foster. I mean you no harm. He couldn't complete the sentence, his scientific mind racing to process what his eyes were seeing. "Not human," she finished for him, her voice resonating with a melodic quality that hadn't been there before. "I am Talia Vex, surveillance specialist of the Celestial Diplomatic Corps of Astoria." "Astoria? My homeworld. Approximately 63 light-years from your solar system." She glanced at the darkened equipment around them. "Someone deployed an electromagnetic pulse device. My biomorphic camouflage has been temporarily disabled." Nathaniel's shock began giving way to scientific curiosity. "You've been disguised as human? For how long? On Earth?" 3 of your years. At this university, specifically to monitor you, for the past month." "Me?" Nathaniel's voice cracked. "Why would an alien be monitoring me?" Talia stepped closer, her bioluminescent skin casting shadows across the observatory. Because, Professor Foster, the signal you've been tracking is not a natural phenomenon. It's our communication network. You're the only human who's detected it. The implication struck Nathaniel like a physical blow. His research, dismissed by peers and nearly defunded by the university, had been valid all along. But before he could process this vindication, another realization dawned. If you've disabled your disguise to tell me this, then the protocols are clear, Talia said gravely. No unauthorized human may witness an Astorian's true form. What happens now? Nathaniel asked, surprised by the steadiness in his voice. According to our laws, there are only two options. Talia's luminous eyes held his. Elimination of the security breach, meaning you, or implementation of the bonding protocol. I prefer whichever option doesn't involve my death, Nathaniel said, attempting humor despite the surreal situation. The bonding protocol is not to be taken lightly, Talia warned. It creates a permanent biophysical connection between an Astorian and a being of another species. It was designed for diplomatic emergencies, not. She faltered. Not accidentally revealed aliens in university observatories. Precisely. The emergency lights finally kicked in, casting a dim red glow throughout the room. Talia remained transformed, her alien features more pronounced in the crimson illumination. I should inform you, she continued, that this situation is highly irregular. The electromagnetic pulse that revealed my true form was targeted and sophisticated. Someone wanted you to see me like this. Nathaniel's analytical mind engaged despite his shock. Why would someone want that? There are factions within our diplomatic corps with differing views on Earth-Astorian relations. Some believe in quiet observation. Others push for more direct approaches. A distant memory clicked into place. The meteor shower last year over the Pacific that changed course mid-descent, that wasn't a natural phenomenon either, was it? Talia's expression confirmed his suspicion. A demonstration of capability by the more aggressive faction. It was redirected by moderates before impact. Nathaniel ran his hands through his hair, processing the magnitude of what he was learning. So I've stumbled into an alien political struggle, and now I have to either die or become bonded to you. The situation is rapidly becoming more complex than that, Talia said, moving toward the window to scan the darkened campus. The pulse device was military-grade technology. Someone high in our command structure must have authorized its use. Who would want to expose you? Talia's glowing eyes narrowed. Diplomat Jorix. He leads the faction advocating for formal control of Earth rather than peaceful integration. He's been monitoring my communications, questioning my objectivity. Because of me? Because I detected your signal? Partly. Also because I've reported that humans show more potential than his faction wants to acknowledge. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside the observatory. Talia tensed, her skin brightening defensively. Campus security, Nathaniel whispered. They'll check the building after a power failure. We cannot be discovered like this. Talia's voice became urgent. Nathaniel Foster, I must initiate the preliminary bonding protocol immediately for both our safety. Wait, I haven't agreed to. The preliminary stage is reversible, she interrupted, taking his hand in her glowing one. It merely creates a superficial bioenergetic link, enough to satisfy initial directives if we're discovered. The footsteps grew louder. Nathaniel felt torn between scientific fascination and self-preservation instinct. What do I need to do? He relented. Hold still, Talia instructed, placing her free hand over his heart. And try not to panic. Warmth spread from her fingertips, seeping through his shirt and into his skin. The sensation penetrated deeper, beyond flesh and bone, as if reaching for something fundamental within him. Their breathing synchronized, then their heartbeats. As the door to the observatory began to open, Talia pulled him close, her forehead touching his. A cascade of images flooded Nathaniel's mind, stars seen from unfamiliar angles, cities built from crystal and light, and a profound sense of duty intertwined with unexpected longing. What is happening in here? The security guard's flashlight beam cut through the darkness. When Nathaniel could focus again, Talia appeared human once more, though her eyes retained a faint luminescence visible only to him. Power failure interrupted our research, Talia explained smoothly. Professor Foster was just showing me how to operate the emergency systems. The guard seemed satisfied with this explanation, especially as the main lights began flickering back to life across campus. After he left, Nathaniel released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. That was close. It's only beginning, Talia said, her expression grave. The preliminary bond will buy us time, but Jorix will know of the breach by morning. We have 72 hours at most before the Asterian Council demands resolution. Resolution meaning? Either completion of the bonding protocol or... She didn't need to finish. Nathaniel stared at the alien woman before him, still appearing mostly human yet fundamentally changed in his perception. His orderly life as an astronomer, chasing distant signals in the night sky, had transformed into something far stranger. I believe, Talia said, studying his face, that humans have a phrase for situations like this. What's that? Nathaniel asked, feeling slightly dazed. The stars have aligned, she replied with the ghost of a smile. Though perhaps not in the way either of us anticipated. The morning sunlight streamed through Nathaniel's apartment windows as he paced the worn carpet, still struggling to process the previous night's revelations. He absently touched his chest where Talia had initiated the preliminary bond. Though no visible mark remained, he felt different, more aware of subtle energies around him, more attuned to the electromagnetic pulses of his own devices. The preliminary bond creates a quantum entanglement between our bioelectric fields, Talia explained, sitting perfectly composed on his couch. She had arrived at dawn, her appearance human once more but now transparently artificial to his enhanced perception. You're saying we're quantum entangled? Nathaniel asked, his scientific mind both fascinated and skeptical. In simplified terms, yes. The full bonding would expand this connection to cellular and neurological levels. She placed a small crystalline device on the coffee table. It hummed softly before projecting holographic displays of intricate molecular structures. These are baseline readings of your biology from last night. Nathaniel leaned closer, transfixed by the complexity. That's my DNA. It looks altered. The preliminary bond has initiated minor adaptations. Your electromagnetic sensitivity has increased, allowing you to perceive aspects of our technology previously invisible to humans. Is that why I can see a faint glow around you even in your human form? Talia nodded. The disguise remains intact to others, but between bonded individuals, complete concealment is impossible. Nathaniel collapsed into the armchair across from her, rubbing his temples. This is insane. Yesterday I was an astronomer tracking anomalous signals. Today I'm partially bonded to an alien diplomat hiding from her own people. Surveillance specialist, Talia corrected gently. Diplomats rarely perform field operations. That's really the detail you're focusing on. Nathaniel laughed despite himself. What happens now? You mentioned a 72-hour deadline. Talia's expression grew serious. The Asterian Council will have detected the preliminary bond formation. By our laws, we must either complete the process or... She hesitated. Or terminate the security breach, meaning me, Nathaniel finished. You mentioned that last night, but you didn't explain what this, complete bonding actually entails. Talia stood and walked to the window, her movements too fluid to be human. The bonding protocol was established centuries ago when our explorers first encountered compatible species. It creates a permanent biological synchronization that allows for shared consciousness while maintaining individual autonomy. Shared consciousness? Like telepathy? More intimate than telepathy. Thoughts remain private unless deliberately shared, but emotional states, sensory experiences, and core memories become accessible to both partners. She turned to face him. The process is irreversible. The weight of this statement hung between them. Nathaniel stood and joined her by the window. Why would your people create such a mechanism? Initially for diplomatic emergencies, to ensure absolute trust between representatives of different worlds. A hint of sadness colored her voice. Later, it became a tool for integration of species deemed valuable to Asterian interests. And humans are one such species. That's where the political divide begins. Diplomat Jorix and his faction view humans as useful but inferior, resources to be managed and controlled. Director Celine, my superior, sees humans as eventual equals with unique perspectives valuable to galactic society. Nathaniel processed this information, the scientist in him cataloging details while the human in him grappled with implications. And where do you stand in this debate? Talia met his gaze directly. My assignment to monitor you has complicated my perspective. Your detection of our communication network should have been impossible given human technological limitations. Yet you achieved it with improvised equipment and intuitive leaps that our analysts failed to anticipate. That doesn't answer my question. I believe, she said carefully, that humans possess potential beyond what either faction fully comprehends. Your species' creativity, adaptability, and persistence are remarkable evolutionary traits. Her communication device chimed an alert. Talia's expression hardened as she reviewed the message. We have a problem. Jorix's security team has been dispatched to investigate the power failure at the observatory. They'll analyze residual energy signatures and discover the preliminary bond. How long do we have? Hours, not days as I'd hoped. Talia began activating various devices from concealed pockets in her clothing. We need to secure this location immediately. Nathaniel watched in fascination as she placed small disc-shaped objects at each window and door. They adhered to the surfaces, briefly glowing before becoming nearly invisible. Perception filters and signal scramblers, she explained. Basic security measures that should buy us time. Time for what exactly? To determine who orchestrated last night's exposure and why. The electromagnetic pulse was precisely calibrated to disrupt only my biomorphic camouflage. Few have access to both the technology and my specific biometric frequency. Nathaniel's analytical mind engaged. You think this was targeted specifically at you, not just any Asterian on Earth? Yes. The question is whether I was exposed to force a bonding with you specifically, or to discredit me as compromised by human contact. Either way, I'm caught in the crossfire of alien politics I don't understand, Nathaniel muttered. Talia approached him, her expression softening. I regret involving you in this, Nathaniel. Your curiosity about the stars has led you into dangerous territory. My entire career has been about pursuing knowledge regardless of where it leads, he replied with a wry smile. Though I admit, this particular discovery exceeds even my wildest hypotheses. The preliminary bond between them hummed with increased energy as they stood close, a phenomenon Nathaniel found simultaneously disconcerting and fascinating. There's something else you should know, Talia said, her voice lowering. The complete bonding protocol involves more than neurological synchronization. What do you mean? Astorians are considerably different physiologically than our human disguises suggest. The bonding process would initiate permanent changes to your biology, enhancing certain capabilities while potentially limiting others. Such as extended lifespan, improved cellular regeneration, heightened sensory perception. She hesitated. But the human digestive system would require modification to process Asterian nutrients, and reproduction between species becomes complex. Nathaniel blinked, caught off guard by the practical implications. You're telling me that if we complete this bond, I'd become part alien? The changes would be gradual but comprehensive. You would remain human, but She searched for the right words, an enhanced version. Before Nathaniel could respond, a subtle vibration shook the apartment. Talia's security devices flashed warning signals. "They've found us sooner than anticipated," she said, rapidly gathering her equipment. "We need to leave immediately." "Who's found us?" "Jorix's security team." She stopped mid-sentence, her attention drawn to a small scanner in her hand. "This can't be right." "What is it?" "The energy signature approaching us matches Director Celine's security detail, not Jorix's." Nathaniel moved to the window, peering through the blinds at the street below. A nondescript black vehicle had parked across from his apartment building. "Is that good news or bad?" "I'm uncertain," Talia admitted. "Director Celine has been my mentor and advocate within the diplomatic corps, but her involvement here suggests higher stakes than a simple protocol violation." A secure communication channel activated on Talia's wrist device, projecting a small hologram of an elegant Asturian female with silver-patterned skin and penetrating eyes. "Surveillance Specialist Vex," the figure addressed Talia formally. "Your preliminary bond registration has been flagged for immediate review. Present yourself and the human subject at headquarters within the hour." "Director Celine," Talia acknowledged with evident respect. "The circumstances of last night's exposure warrant investigation. I have reason to believe diplomat Jorix orchestrated." "Save your explanations for the formal inquiry," Celine interrupted. "The Council has convened an emergency session regarding Earth protocols. Your situation has become a focal point of the debate." The hologram flickered as Celine leaned closer. "Be cautious, Talia. Jorix's faction is using this incident to push for immediate implementation of the integration directive." "The directive hasn't received full council approval," Talia protested. "Circumstances are evolving rapidly." Celine's gaze shifted to Nathaniel. "Bring the human. His perspective may prove valuable." The communication ended abruptly. Talia stood motionless for a moment, her expression unreadable. "What's the integration directive?" Nathaniel asked, breaking the silence. "A proposed initiative to establish formal control over Earth's key institutions through targeted bondings with influential humans." Talia's voice carried a weight of concern. "It would effectively place your world under Asturian stewardship without the majority of humanity ever knowing. And I'm supposed to just walk into your headquarters. Where is it even located?" "Beneath Lake Michigan. Our main Earth base is submerged approximately 3 kilometers from Chicago's shoreline." Nathaniel stared at her incredulously. "An alien base has been sitting under one of the Great Lakes, and no one has noticed?" "Your military has detected unusual activity occasionally, but our technology renders most scans inconclusive." She began gathering essential items. "We don't have much time. Director Celine's warning suggests Jorix's faction is gaining political momentum. What happens if we don't show up for this inquiry? We'd be declared rogue agents, hunted by both factions." Talia faced him directly. "I understand this is overwhelming, Nathaniel, but at headquarters we might access information about who exposed my identity and why. And if we discover that information? Then we leverage it to negotiate better terms for both of us, and potentially for Earth's future relationship with Astoria." Nathaniel considered his options, which seemed increasingly limited. Running seemed futile against beings with technology centuries beyond human capability. Reporting to authorities would likely result in his dismissal as delusional. "Even if we go to your headquarters," he reasoned, "what's to prevent them from simply eliminating me as a security risk once I'm there? The preliminary bond offers some protection. By our laws, bonded pairs must be treated as a single diplomatic entity until resolution is reached." She held his gaze. "And you have my word that I will protect you to the best of my ability." Something in her tone resonated through their connection, carrying an emotional certainty that transcended verbal assurance. Nathaniel felt, rather than simply heard, her commitment. "All right," he decided. But I want to understand what I'm walking into. Tell me more about Asterian society, these factions, while we travel. Relief visibly washed over Talia's features. Thank you for trusting me. As they prepared to leave, Nathaniel paused by his desk, quickly backing up his research data to a secure drive. Whatever happened next, he wanted evidence of his discovery preserved. One more question before we go, he said, pocketing the drive. Last night, when you initiated the preliminary bond, I saw images, cities of crystal, stars from impossible angles. Were those your memories? Talia nodded. The bond allows for limited memory transference, primarily emotional contexts and significant experiences. There was one image that seemed personal. A feeling of longing associated with Earth, predating your assignment to monitor me. Nathaniel watched her carefully. You've been fascinated with humans before we ever met, haven't you? For the first time since he'd known her, Talia appeared genuinely unsettled. The bond works both ways, Nathaniel. I've seen your isolation, your dedication to proving theories others dismissed. Your lifelong conviction that humanity is not alone in the universe. That doesn't answer my question. She moved toward the door, indicating they needed to leave. Perhaps some truths are better revealed gradually, through experience rather than explanation. As they stepped outside, the morning sun caught in her dark hair, momentarily revealing iridescent undertones invisible to normal human perception. Nathaniel realized that whether by choice or circumstance, his fate was now inextricably linked with this enigmatic being from the stars. And despite the danger, the scientist in him couldn't help but feel a thrill of discovery. He was about to see proof of extraterrestrial civilization, confirming what he had always believed: humanity was not alone in the vast, mysterious universe.